Jimmy's remarks about Charlie Kirk were tasteless, and ABC and its affiliates would have been fully within their rights to fire him or simply to no longer air his program. That was their choice. But what government cannot do is force private entities to take actions that the government cannot take directly.
Okay, did you just see that? Because I need a second. What we just watched was a United States senator actually making sense on live television. And not just making sense, but making constitutional sense. That was Senator Ted Cruz grilling FCC Chairman Brendan Carr, and Cruz came in locked and loaded. No grandstanding, no waffling. He walked in with receipts. Specific cases, specific years, specific violations. If you've been following media regulation and free speech at all, you know exactly why this moment matters. We're going to watch the full video together. I'll break it all down and give you my honest take, and we're going to have a real conversation about what the government should and should not be doing when it comes to your right to hear opinions they don't agree with. Before we do that, though, if you're new here and you care about free speech and holding both sides to the same standard, hit subscribe right now. This is exactly what we cover on this channel. Like the video if you think the government has no business telling you what opinions are acceptable. Let's get into it.
Thank you to each of you. Chairman Carr, let's start with free speech. I think you would agree that the FCC's public interest standard has been weaponized against conservatives in the past. In 2018, Senate Democrats tried to pressure the FCC to use the public interest standard to stop Sinclair Broadcasting Group from acquiring Tribune Media. In 2023, leftists sought to stop a routine renewal of a Fox-owned broadcast station over complaints about 2020 election coverage. Do you agree that that was wrong?
Yes, Senator, I agree. And those are cases, in fact, where rather than following FCC precedent, the agency broke from it and did so in a weaponized way.
Now, another area of agreement between you and I is that Jimmy Kimmel is angry, overtly partisan, and profoundly unfunny. That, sadly, is true for most late-night comedians today who seem to have been collectively broken by President Trump's election. Jimmy's remarks about Charlie Kirk were tasteless, and ABC and its affiliates would have been fully within their rights to fire him or simply to no longer air his program. That was their choice. But what government cannot do is force private entities to take actions that the government cannot take directly. Government officials threatening adverse consequences for disfavored content is an unconstitutional coercion that chills protected speech. This is why it was so insidious how the Biden administration jawboned social media into shutting down conservatives online over accurate information on COVID or voter fraud. My Democrat colleagues were persistently silent over that scandal, but I welcome them now having discovered the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights. Democrat or Republican, we cannot have the government arbitrating truth or opinion. Mr. Chairman, my question is this. So long as there is a public interest standard, shouldn't it be understood to encompass robust First Amendment protections to ensure that the FCC cannot use it to chill speech?
Yes, Senator, I agree with you there. And I think the examples you laid out of weaponization during the Biden years are perfect examples. The Fox case you mentioned was a renewal for a broadcast TV license, and petitioners sought to have the FCC not renew it based on content that aired on a separate cable channel. In the cable context, it's entirely different. There's no license, there's no public interest standard. So first and foremost, we have to make sure the FCC is hewing to precedent. Similarly, we saw Democrats in Congress write letters to cable companies pressuring them to drop Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax because they disagreed with the political perspectives of those cable channels. And there, again, it was cable. No broadcast license, no public interest standard. So the FCC has to write within the four corners of our precedents to be consistent with the Communications Act and the First Amendment concerns as well.
All right, we just watched the whole thing. And I'll be straight with you, that was one of the cleaner, more principled exchanges I've seen come out of a Senate hearing in a long time. Ted Cruz did something most politicians are genuinely afraid to do. He drew a consistent line. Not a convenient one. Not a, this is wrong when they do it to us, but fine when we do it to them line. A consistent constitutional line. He opened with two specific examples. The 2018 attempt to block Sinclair's acquisition of Tribune Media and the 2023 effort to deny Fox a routine broadcast license renewal based on content that didn't even air on that station. They tried to punish a broadcast station over content from a cable channel. That's not oversight, that's targeting. And Chairman Carr agreed without hesitation. Now Cruz brings up Jimmy Kimmel, and I know some people are going to say, oh, here we go. But that is not what he was doing. Cruz actually made a really sharp legal point there. He said ABC had every right to fire Kimmel or pull his show. That is their private choice. His argument was that the government cannot be the one demanding it. That distinction matters, and it gets lost in almost every political conversation about this stuff. Because the moment you allow the government to pressure private media companies over content they dislike, you've opened a door that does not close neatly when the other party takes power. Cruz called it what it is, unconstitutional coercion, and he was right. Then he went at the Biden administration's social media jawboning, and this is where he was sharpest. What came out through Missouri versus Biden and the Twitter files was not a conspiracy theory. Government officials were actively coordinating with platforms to suppress content that in some cases turned out to be accurate. That is in the record. And the silence from Democrats during that whole period was deafening. Cruz acknowledged it without gloating. He said, I welcome them now having discovered the First Amendment. He called out the hypocrisy while still extending the olive branch. That's how you make a principled argument actually land. Then he ended with the real ask, putting it to Chairman Carr directly. Should the public interest standard include robust First Amendment protections? Carr said yes. That is the FCC chairman going on record saying the agency cannot use its licensing power as a speech control mechanism. That matters going forward. Look, I'm not saying Ted Cruz is a perfect politician. Nobody is. But in this hearing on this issue, he was focused, grounded, and applying the same standard regardless of which outlet was being targeted. That is what we should be demanding from every elected official. The government does not get to decide which opinions are safe for you to hear. Not through licensing threats, not through pressure letters, not through back-channel calls to tech companies. None of it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the FCC's public interest standard needs to be reined in? Do you think both sides have been equally guilty here? Drop it below. I want to hear where you stand. See you in the next one.